All right, and it looks like they're off. Here we have the prologue, the most difficult level in the game. You walk right and jump and climb. Those are the mechanics introduced to you right away. Later on, we'll be introduced to the dash, which is when this run is really going to get going. You can see the players jumping on this bridge here. I assure you that is not out of boredom. It is actually faster to jump. Each jump saves about 2 frames because of an actual speed boost inherent to the jump mechanic. All right, so now we learn how to dash from this bird. Thanks, bird. So now that we have the dash mechanic, this run can really get going. Starting with City, you're going to notice basically this run is all about providing and conserving momentum. So we have the dash mechanic to provide the momentum and the jump mechanic to preserve it. And you can see that right away. Both Vallu and Rack the Kitty doing something called hyper dashing and jump dashing in order to gain and preserve a lot of speed, as well as some other mechanics that I will get into slowly as the run goes. You can see them like bouncing off walls vertically. We call that a vertical hyper or a wall bounce, in order to get a lot of vertical height and speed as well if you need it. That's when you dash vertically up against the wall and then jump off of it pretty much immediately. You also might notice these green refresh crystals. They refresh your dash when you collect them if you don't have a dash. Chapter 1 does a really good job of introducing the concept of momentum to the player as well, with these zippers, which they, by the way, are not using. But anyway. Yeah, we don't need zippers in the speedrun, or at least not in Chapter 1. Players traversing Chapter 1 very, very efficiently and quickly. Vallu with a very nice Chapter 1 time, as well with a 107. Rack the Kitty following, very close behind with a 113. Nice Chapter 1. Celeste is neither of these players' only speed game, by the way. Vallu is actually a very well-known speedrunner of various games, especially Mario games, especially Mario Galaxy. And Rack the Kitty also speedrunning Hollow Knight. So neither of these players are not well versed in the world of speedrunning. Here we have Chapter 2, by the way. So Chapter 2 introduces this dream block mechanic. You dash in one side and come out the other. It's pretty simple. You can't change direction while you're in there, while you're in the dash block. And also, if you hit a wall while you're inside the dash block, you will die, so don't do that. Vallu now just reaching the battle line section. So battle line follows your movements. She kills you, by the way, so don't touch her. Battle line follows your movements by about 3 seconds behind you and mimics your movements exactly. Speedrunners generally don't have to worry about battle line except for a couple of rooms. This next one that Vallu is approaching is one of them. So see if he tries to sneak between, and he does very well. Rack the Kitty following suit right here. Pulling off pretty much the same strat, little variation, but very nicely done nonetheless. This room right here is a very long room. Rack the Kitty unfortunately taking a death there. Bit of a setback, that's okay. This room is pretty punishing with deaths. Ooh, nice in-between dash there from Rack. So Vallu in the awake section now. Sneakily one of the most technical areas of the game in terms of movement. Lots of little knobs in the ground to move around here. And being able to constantly hyper dash is actually a pretty it's a pretty big time saver, actually. You wouldn't think it, but it is. And it's actually really hard to keep hypering on these knobs. I don't know what else to call them besides knobs. Little plateaus, little raised platforms, I guess, is probably a better word. Vallu now entering Chapter 3. Chapter 3 Celestial Resort is pretty cycle-based, which you'll notice pretty much right away after we talk to Oshiro there. There's more where that came from. See, these little dust bunnies will move back and forth in a circle in a bunch of different patterns in order to try and kill you. So we'll see what kind of strats these players do to try to avoid these cycles. I can see these players, both with sub 40, going for some pretty advanced strats to try to save some time. Although it is a race, so you never know. Yeah, really cool wave dash strat there from Vallu off of the 3 platforms. So these little coins here, by the way, are called lock switches. Generally, you collect all of them in a room in order to make a platform move to a certain spot, or to make something else happen. Here we have the huge mess room. Lots of little nooks and crannies in this room. Just generally a hard room to move through, but Vallu doing so pretty cleanly. And here we have a section of the game where there are these 3 subsections where you have to clean up this this huge mess, as it's actually properly called in the game. This section is called Huge Mess. So you hit these 3 buttons to clean up these books, towels, and boxes. Each button you press here, so like for instance, Vallu, just press the button there, and you'll see a little bit of the debris is actually gone from this room, from this main room. That's the main mechanic here. There are 3 different sections: the north section, the south section, and the east section. And this section is actually routed quite particularly so that Oshiro is at the very end of the section when we complete it. So it's pretty much objectively the fastest way to do this. Rag the Kitty, not too far behind here. It's pretty much exactly a huge mess section behind right now. It's nice having both of their in-game times like pretty much perfectly synced. So you can see exactly where these players are in relation to each other, in relation to in-game time. So Vallu has now pushed all the buttons and can now advance, can now grab this key in the middle of the room. And is going to move on to one of the more technical parts of Chapter 3, the elevator shaft section. This section can be pretty brutal. Especially rooms like this right here. I don't want a commentator's curse, though. Alright, we're good. Yeah, both runners exhibiting a great knowledge of the cycles here, Chapter 3. Pretty cool to see 2 really good runners exhibit their knowledge like this, exhibit their skills. Really long room here on Vallu's side. This room can be really punishing. Pretty much every long room in this game can potentially be punishing. And Chapter 3 really introduces these really long rooms, which can really hit hard if you die in them, of course. Especially the last room here, the Oshiro section. So Oshiro is essentially extremely angry at you because Battleline told him his hotel's a dump. Left a bad review on Yelp or something, and so now he's chasing you around on the top of this hotel, trying to kill you, as is the norm with hotel owners who get bad reviews, I guess. This room right here is very technical. Vallu just going all out. This is a very advanced strat here that Vallu's doing. He pulls it off flawlessly. Very nicely done. With a time of, I believe, 5:14 that was? Or 5:16. Chapter 3, that is definitely very good. Rack the Kitty following up here, beginning the Oshiro section. Collecting these lock switches. And moving right on through. At the same time, we have Vallu starting Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is... it will introduce more new mechanics, as each level tends to do. Bubbles, clouds, and wind. Wind will be the most apparent here. The thing with wind, though, is that it doesn't really affect you if you're dashing. So you'll see the players dashing quite a bit to bypass the effect of the wind. Clouds essentially act as trampolines, and bubbles essentially act as an extra dash. That strat there by Vallu to get that right coin first is actually a lot harder than it looks. And Rack the Kitty finishing up Chapter 3. Oh, I thought he was going to go get the heart for a second. Oh wait, the heart's not that way. My bad, I'm stupid. Heart's that way to the right there. Okay, never mind. Double wall bounce strat there by Vallu to bypass that left block completely. Another harder than it looks strat. One thing you'll notice, by the way, is that spikes. So what makes that strat pretty like a lot easier is the fact that spikes hitboxes aren't quite as big as they look on screen. So you can actually move into them quite a bit. So it makes that wall bounce a lot simpler than it probably looks. Nice wave dashes there off the tops of the platforms from Vallu. Meanwhile, we have Rack the Kitty starting the shrine section here of this Chapter 4. So you'll notice these players actually did a sort of... it looked like they were jumping off the spikes in order to not have to use that block to get all the way up to that main, to the top of that main room. A fundamental property of spikes in this game is if you're moving away from them, you'll actually not touch them at all, ever. The way their hitboxes work, they essentially don't have a hitbox when you're moving in the same direction as they're pointing. So you can actually move away and jump off the wall at the same time. So it looks like they're pulling some black magic, but I assure you it's actually just part of the mechanic of the game. Vallu here starting the last part of Chapter 4, Cliff Face, which is extremely tough. Definitely the hardest part of Chapter 4. Oof, case in point. These snowballs can be very, very vicious. Especially if you're just a little bit off cycle, like Vallu was there. Just a little bit, that's all it takes. If you don't do these rooms absolutely perfectly, you'll most likely get punished. See Rack the Kitty waiting for the cycle here. Being smart, not doing anything too rash. Meanwhile, Vallu finishing up Chapter 4. Longer and very nicely done by Rack the Kitty there. Using, I believe, what was all 4 springs in the 4 spring room. Oh, see, he just missed the tiny platform there. Like that, this part is just brutal to speedrun. almost as brutal as it is in casual. So you have Vallu starting chapter 5, by the way. I missed it. I apologize, but he actually preferred to skip there to skip a red bubble on the left. You can wave dash off of the moving platform going up and down in order to completely bypass the need for that red bubble. Red bubbles, by the way, they basically prolong your dash. They extend, or they go infinitely in one direction until they hit something or until you dash out of them. Like this, you can see. So as Vallu approaches the end of Depths, we have Rack Kitty finishing up Chapter 4. Vallu about to enter this this dream sequence in the mirror, where you essentially play as a Seeker for a little bit, and in a pretty genius way of game design, honestly. The game teaches you how Seekers work by essentially having you become one. It's pretty... Basically, what it's trying to tell you is that Seekers kill Madeline. That's it. And also that they can move quickly. And break blocks. The red blocks, to be specific. Here we have some hot cutscene skipping action there from Vallu. Very nicely done. So as Vallu moves through this part we call Unraveling. As it's properly called, you'll see these Seekers are out for blood, and it's your job to avoid them while collecting all these lock switches at the same time. And the last room here especially can be very, very brutal. Oh, that's unfortunate. Wow, that Seeker showed no mercy. Yeah, this room right here can be especially tough. Very nicely done. That wall bounce at the end is tougher than it looks, and it's also very punishing if you miss. The Seeker will most likely hit you if you don't get that wall bounce. We have Vallu here doing Search Skip. Search Skip, you know, casually saves about 2 minutes of casual gameplay. We don't need to get either of the keys on the bottom there, nor the key on the right. So that is a very important skip to learn if you are ever thinking about learning this run, if you haven't yet. We're going to be approaching the Theo section pretty soon. And Theo is interesting. Theo is where the game starts to change up a little bit. So it's nothing that the players experience up until now, but you're supposed to... It's essentially an escort mission. You need to carry Theo, who's in this crystal, encased in this crystal. You need to carry him to the end of the level, and while you're doing so, while you're carrying Theo, you actually cannot dash. So you notice what Vallu's doing is he's throwing Theo and then hyper dashing or jump dashing into him to provide his own momentum, and then he'll bunny hop after landing to preserve that momentum as well. Since you do lose momentum slower in the air as you do on the ground creates friction. So you see Vallu doing that a lot, and you'll see Rack Kitty doing that as well, I would imagine, once he gets there. Ooh, that was nice by Rack the Kitty there. Just outrace the Seeker. That was really close. Vallu now in this eyeball room. It's gonna shoot some energy waves at him, or whatever you want to call these. What Vallu's doing, very nicely done there. What Vallu did there was he actually he counteracted the backwards momentum that the waves were pushing him with, and basically just kind of canceled them out with dashes. Timing can be a little bit tricky on that, but he pulled it off very well. Meanwhile, Rack the Kitty approaching the Theo section as Vallu starts Chapter 6 with the Feather section. So this chapter introduces feathers, which allow you to fly in any direction omnidirectionally for a certain amount of time. And here we have these crush blocks introduction. Crush blocks, also known as Kevin blocks. Shoutouts to Kevin. Kevin or Grammy from Power Up Audio, who actually provided the beautiful sound that these crush blocks make. In fact, let's switch the audio over 1 second. I lost my controls. Okay, so pretty soon we should be able to actually hear what these crush blocks sound like. Something like, I can't do it. So chapter 6, anyway, is chapter 6 is really full of these pretty difficult strats that only save a little bit of time. And chapter 6 is really what separates, or the saving that time in chapter 6 is what really separates like really good runners from runners that might be really close to breaking out and achieving a top time, but are not quite there yet. It's chapter 6. Chapter 6 is just you can see, like, for instance, even on like this screen right here. So we'll see what Vallu does on this screen. Yeah, nicely done there. There's another skip later involving a bumper where you can actually hit the bumper and hold away from the bumper at the same time to gain a massive amount of distance, or a massive like distance increase. It's actually this screen right here coming up. Yeah, he pulls it off perfectly. Just strats like that just save a little bit of time. I'm sorry for commentator's curse, by the way. That was my fault. You blame that one on me, Vallu. I completely cursed that. He pulled off the strat perfectly and then just fell. Stuff like that can also happen, you know. It's like chapter 6 is chapter 6 can be brutal in its own way. He's gonna save this. He's gonna save this. Oh, he definitely he definitely could have saved that. That was close. Unfortunately, the bumper just said no. Meanwhile, Rack the Kitty making the ascent up to the hollow section as well. This climb right here, by the way, is it involves neutral wall jumps. Neutral wall jumps do not consume stamina. Talking about Rack Kitty's side, by the way. Sorry if that wasn't clear. So yeah, you can actually, like, the intended way to do that is actually to grab a feather on the lower left and take it all the way up. But that takes a lot of time, so we just neutral wall climb instead to bypass that. Vallu traversing this underwater section right here. Yeah, this part can actually be really tricky to navigate, like sneakily tricky. There we go. And we'll see if Vallu tries the battle and boost going into battle. And so let's see, yeah, he's setting up for it. So he's going to hyper here and bunny hop off of the right side of the block and gain a massive amount of momentum and just slam in the battle in. Perfect. Very nice there. It takes a pretty precise bunny hop to actually get through, but you gain a lot of speed that way, and that saves a lot of time. So here we are confronting ourselves, aka hitting ourselves in the face repeatedly. That's unfortunate. These screens can be pretty difficult. This is where the game really starts to show its teeth, for sure. Like all throughout Chapter 6 and Chapter 5 even. This section is just brutal, but speedrunners make it look easy. Vallu trying an ultra dash strat there. I didn't mention ultra dashes. Ultra dash is essentially a okay, so I'll explain it after Chapter 6 because it's going to be more relevant in Chapter 7. We have Rack the Kitty approaching the battle line section as well. We'll see if he attempts the battle line boost. And it doesn't look like he is actually. That's fine. Looks like this room is giving Vallu just a little bit of trouble. The thing about this game is it can be just, I don't know if there's a way to put this lightly, but this game, I'll just say this game can be so tilting. When you die one time, it can definitely weigh on you, and it just leads to more and more mistakes if you aren't in just the perfect mindset. It's just that type of game. So half the game here is mental, and just recovering from mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes in a game like Celeste. You're going to make mistakes. Half the battle is just recovering from those mistakes, pretending they didn't happen, and not letting it affect you. Or at least not letting it affect you as much as it could. Oh, okay, so I actually really feel for Vallu there, because he recovered that. He actually reacted perfectly to that situation. He dashed back to the platform, and the laser just owned him. That's really unfortunate. This room is so deadly. Vallu finishing up battle line, and we officially leveled up in true RPG style, and we now have 2 dashes. And 2 dashes is going to be the main focus of the next level, Chapter 7, as Vallu finishes Chapter 6. It was a little bit of a rough one for Vallu, and it looks like Rack the Kitty is going to make up some pretty significant time on him here. Coming up on the last screen of the battle line section very quickly. And we'll see how Rack the Kitty handles this. Ooh. Got a haircut there from that laser. Doing well to take his time and avoid the lasers. And nicely done there by Rack the Kitty. We'll call that a first try. Now Vallu's starting Summit, so as you probably know, Summit is basically just a culmination of the level mechanics of all the levels that you've seen so far. So here we have this sort of prologue section. For some reason, prologue has spikes now, and now we enter the city section, 500 meters. Except it's with 2 dashes, so story-wise, it's a lot easier because you have 2 dashes, and you're basically out of your own way mentally. You've made peace with the side of your mind that's been inhibiting your progress, and now you are just flying up this mountain. Is basically what the story implies here. However, the summit itself, as far as the speedrun and as far as the gameplay goes, is definitely the most difficult part of the game. Nice recovery there by Vallu, not quite making it to battle line, but using the wall instead to climb up. Quick thinking, very smart. Now we have the reintroduction of Dream Blocks, which for whatever reason are active now, not in a dream. But hey, we're not here to question things, we're here to speedrun. Vallu actually very nicely done hypering out of these dream blocks, which is actually pretty tight. I didn't mention during chapter 2, but you can actually jump out of dream blocks. You can also hyper dash out of dream blocks, which is more tight than just jumping, and also pretty dangerous as well, because if you miss hypering out of a dream block by just a little bit, you're pretty much dead anywhere you miss it, except for just a couple places. So 1500 is probably the most interesting part of Summit for me personally. Lots of cycles, lots of different strats you can do depending on how aggressive you want to be. We'll see how Vallu decides to tackle this. Nicely done there. That room can be extremely punishing as well, but Vallu hitting that very well. Summit is definitely as well where you see personalization of strats come into play, especially during Summit. These two players are doing pretty much nothing alike right now, as far as actual strats go, and it's pretty cool to see two runners having just completely different ideas on how to go about tackling the platforming here. It's all personalized. It's all personalized, and it's all about comfort. Doing what's comfortable. That was sneaky there from Rack. Grabbing that lock switch. Well, vicious room here from Vallu, tackled very nicely. Going underneath the last platforms there. You can go over or you can go under. Under is slightly faster, but it's much more dangerous to go under. And yeah, because of Chapter 6, this race is not over. Absolutely not over. Although Vallu still has a lead. Vallu most likely knows he has a lead and might play accordingly. We'll see. Maybe a little bit safer down the stretch. And starting with 2,000 meters, these last rooms here for 2,000 and 2,500 are a few of the longest in Summit, aside for 3,000 meters. Ooh, nice wave dash shot there from Vallu. There are a lot of different ways to do that room. Vallu chose the slightly more aggressive way of doing it. Nice wave dashes there off the platforms too. Excuse me. And there we had Vallu just do something called key skip, or 2,500 meter key skip, which is basically just two neutral jumps. That skip is a little bit unintuitive for new runners because the trick is to not hold a single direction. Just jump. Just input, jump twice. Of course, you have to time it correctly as well, but it's not that bad. Vallu going for door skip. This run is officially valid. Just kidding. Door skip actually doesn't do that. It's not my meme, don't ask me. Alright, Vallu successfully clearing the first 2,500 meters of this summit and is now approaching 3,000, where this run will come to a close very soon, within about the next 3 minutes or so, in game time at least. So 3,000 is mostly a vertical section of the game. And you can see this downdraft right here. I mentioned earlier in Chapter 4 that wind does not affect you when you're dashing, so Vallu is going to be taking advantage of wall bounces quite a bit here. Wall bounces provide a lot of and conserve your vertical momentum very well, so he's going to be taking advantage of that. Meanwhile, Rag the Kitty just finishing up 2,000 meters now. Very nice. Vallu opting to go for the strat where he gets 2 dashes there, dashing up diagonally into the green crystal. These block switches can be tricky on Vallu's side. But Vallu pulls them off flawlessly. Very nice. We're about halfway through this 3,000 meters now for Vallu. It looks like he's got a pretty clear-cut lead now. I do believe it would be Vallu's race to lose at this point. Looks like he's wrapping up very strongly. This 3,000 meters is actually very good for Vallu. Meanwhile, Rag the Kitty just starting his 3,000 meters, about to make that ascent. Nice save there by Vallu, almost running out of stamina, but not quite. Flag 2. Flag 2 could be treacherous. Very nice. Again, almost running out of stamina, but not quite. And it looks like Vallu's going to finish with a mid-35, it looks like. Assuming no Flag 1 catastrophes. And there we go. Vallu is the winner of this race with a final in-game time of 35:30. Nicely done. Congratulations to Vallu. We'll see if he can come in for an interview very soon after Rag the Kitty finishes up. Yep, this race definitely lived up to expectations. This was, all things considered, a pretty close race. Meanwhile, Rack the Kitty in the second to last screen right now, taking the feather up to this cloud. And now the last screen of the game. All right, we are joined by Vallu now for an interview. Vallu, congratulations on your win.
Thank you. Hello.
Yeah, GG. Mid 35 in a race is definitely a really good accomplishment, man. Congratulations. Very nicely done.
Thank you, thank you.
Sorry, actually a little bit quiet in my headphones. Actually, while Rack the Kitty finishes up with a time of 38:06, that is actually, I believe that's just barely, narrowly missing his PB. Wow, he finished 0.7 seconds behind his PB.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That's insane.
That's close. That's really close. But nonetheless, a very good run from Rack Kitty. Very good run from both of these players. As we are now joined by Rack the Kitty. Rack the Kitty, congratulations on your showing. Nice job in the race.
Thank you very much. Absolutely crazy race it was.
Yeah, so apparently it looks like you finished only 0.6 seconds behind your PB, which is pretty significant in a race. We were talking actually before the race about how you wanted to break that sub 38. It didn't quite happen this race, but man, it is right there. It is coming very soon for you.
Yeah, flag 3 going to flag 2. My finger was slipping on the control stick, and I tried to adjust it halfway through the flight.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah,
Broke
that's
my
hard.
heart.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, but I mean that's part of the race, and I'm really happy with it. It's hard to get 0.6 off a PB and not be happy with how it went.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's really consistent.
Yeah, you should be definitely proud, man. Very,
Yeah,
very nice.
most definitely. I guess I should probably hit the done button.
So I guess I'll move on to some questions. Oh yeah, so it was really notable, Vallu, in Chapter 6.
Yeah.
Chapter 6, so you held it together actually really well moving into Summit in order to keep your run intact, basically. So what goes, and you're a very experienced and very, very good speedrunner as well. So what would you say? What would you say is the key to keeping your composure down the stretch like that, despite making some mistakes in Chapter 6?
Just focus on the movement. Focus what's coming next. Don't think about the pace. Just focus. Basically.
Yep, nicely said. Very nicely said.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter what happened before. You can't change it, so just focus on what's coming up.
What's in the past is in the past. That's a good lesson for up and coming speedrunners. Whoever might be watching this, take this man's words and use them, because they will prove to be very useful, for sure.
Yep.
So I think that's actually about all I have. So yeah, thank you guys for racing, and that was a really fun race to watch, really fun race to commentate for sure.
Thank you for doing the commentary, and Vallu, it was great racing against you.
Yeah, GG.
Yep, no problem, guys. Stay tuned. I actually am not sure what's coming up next on Speed Gaming 5. If anything, I do know that we have Celeste coming back on what is it? Not sure if this. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this straight away. I'm going to find out once and for all what's coming up. Stay tuned while I figure out what's happening.
Yeah, GG.
Yep, no problem, guys. Stay tuned. I actually am not sure what's coming up next on Speed Gaming 5. If anything, I do know that we have Celeste coming back on what is it? Not sure if this. Yeah, I do know that we have. I'm gonna get this straight away. We have Celeste coming find out once and for all what's coming at 9 o'clock on one of the Speed Gaming channels, and then at 10 o'clock we have another race at
All right, guys, that was
10 on one of the Speed Gaming channels.
Kind of a crazy, crazy last couple of minutes there. That death at 3 was heartbreaking. Death at 3 was heartbreaking. It feels like, for the most part, this run was actually really, really good.
Still trying to find it.
3 areas where we hit a hitch room, and it just threw us for a stupid.
Okay, here we go.
And I.
Yeah, 9 o'clock. We actually have Vallu coming back for a race versus Shredberg on Speed Gaming 5.
We botched it once on a really close one,
and then at 10 o'clock tonight, we also have Bentizi versus Level 99 Weeb on the main Speed Gaming 1 channel.
But that was, I mean, that was easily 30 seconds of time loss. That was huge time loss, and it was 3 or 4 deaths. I think.
So yeah, we will see you guys then. Thank you guys very much for everything. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys very soon. Thanks again. I have been TGH, and I will continue to be TGH, and I will see you guys later on.